We've got a good jump on our Alien Auto Company image and branding. Now let's shift things over to Photoshop, and we're going to work on mocking up a web page. Got a little starter file set up in here, so I'm just going to go to File and Open. And inside the Lesson 3 Assets folder, we've got a file called Color Layout. Now this is a pretty simple file, but we're going to use this to establish some basic settings for our project. Notably, the color, but we'll also start with the size. Now our goal here is to create a mock-up of a web page, probably the home page, since that's where we'll be starting things off for the company. We've chosen to go for kind of a modern look, a little bit business-oriented, but not too stiff, so that's why we've started with a gray background instead of something like black or white. We're going to go for mods of gray to set up the background elements, and you can see that we've got this lighter gray shade at the top. We're going to use that to divide the main header elements and the navigational elements from the content of the page. Now let me also point out the size of the document. I'm going to switch the Display tab down at the bottom here to Document Dimensions, and we can see with a pixel measurement that we're starting off with 750 by 500 pixels. Since our goal is to have this on a web browser, we're setting it up so we're designing for a base 800 by 600 monitor screen, and we're giving a little bit of space for the browser buttons and things like scroll bars on the side. Now I want most of my main design to fit in here, but as we go along, we're going to make sure that our design will work on a taller page where my user has to scroll down for more content. Now I do have a couple of other layers installed here. We've got one that's going to give us a look at the color palette that we're going to be using. We're going to be using these colors to accent our design. It's keeping us with that classy modern look and adding a little bit of pizzazz to it as well. Now we've got another layer down in here to further subdivide our content area. Very typically on web pages, you're going to have a minimum of 2 main content sections. And we're going to use that background color to allow those sections to be separated in our user's mind, but still together and cohesive with the rest of the design. Now I'm going to start bringing in some elements so that we can actually mock up this web page. We want it to look exactly like it'll look, or at least as close as possible when it gets to a browser in the finished state. Now that's for 2 reasons. One is we want our client to be able to use this to approve the design before we have to go and build a website out of it. But we're also going to be using this as our main source of material when we actually go to build a website. Those considerations will crop up as we start putting our design elements in. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to bring in some graphics that we're going to be pulling in from both the client and some stock image sources that are going to also enhance our design and keep that branding and Alien Auto customization car thing going. I'm going to use Bridge to gather those up. So we'll just click on the Go to Bridge key up here at the top of Photoshop, and we'll bring up the Bridge panel. Now, as you've probably seen, Bridge is just a great place for me to gather up assets, select what I'm going to be using in my project file, and open them up. That's all I'm going to be using it for in this particular case. I've got a whole bunch of files in the Assets folder under Part 1, Lesson 3. Now you can see in here we've got a few different JPEG files. Some of them are of the Alien employees, and some of them are car projects they've worked on. So I'm going to bring those on in. Now, all of these elements are going to be used someplace on our home page. So I'll just start off by bringing in all the JPEGs. I'm going to use my Control key here on the PC to be able to select them all, and you can use the Apple key on the Mac to make these discontinuous selections. And we'll just make sure we have all 4 of those JPEGs selected, and we'll bring them right into Photoshop so we can put them to use. Let's just choose File and Open. Now some of these really nice photos came from our friends at iStock.com, and you can see they're really going to help us promote that idea of a really slick custom car company.